So, let me tell you a story so sweet, of a young lad with a heart full of beat, his name and faith so complete. In ancient Israel, where legends are told, amidst the stories of prophets so bold, a tale of this hero we must unfold, of David. He was the youngest of Jesse's 8 sons and was initially overlooked as a potential leader. However, when the prophet Samuel came to Jesse's home to choose a new king, David was anointed as the chosen one, despite his youth and humble beginnings as a shepherd. David spent long hours tending to his father's flock, protecting them from predators and leading them to green pastures and still waters. In the hills and fields, with sheep as his charge, David spent his days, from dawn until night, protecting them from predators, leading them to green pastures. Amidst these chores, he honed the skill of using a sling, a skill so true. He learned what to do against lions and bears as he defended his father's flock, until in the very end, and through his practice, he learned to amend his skills as a warrior to the highest degree. Thus, his experience as a shepherd boy brought him skills that would be his joy, for his destiny, as king, would rest on mastery of this primitive craft of a sling. God, with all his power and might, would employ this primitive tool, a testament that God's works are wondrous. One day, a fearsome giant appeared on the battlefield, challenging the armies of Israel to send forth a champion to do battle with him. Goliath, a colossal Philistine warrior, with his massive frame, armor-clad body and an equally intimidating sword. Goliath seemed unbeatable, and the armies of Israel quaked in fear at the mere sight of him.
Israel, filthy Israelites, I challenge you to send your strongest warrior to face me in battle. Let us settle this conflict once and for all. I stand here as a representative of the Philistine people, and I will fight with honor and respect. But make no mistake, I am a fierce warrior, and I will not be defeated easily. So choose your champion wisely, for the fate of your people rests on his shoulders.
But David, moved by a righteous anger and an unyielding determination to defend his people, stepped forward to face the giant, armed with nothing but a sling, a handful of stones, and his unwavering faith in God. The struggle between David and Goliath was fierce. The giant, with his armor and sword, towered over David, a mere shepherd boy armed only with a sling and a few stones. But David was not intimidated. He knew that his faith in God and his skill with the sling would be enough to defeat Goliath. As the battle began, Goliath charged towards David with his sword raised high. David swiftly dodged out of the way, and with a swift motion, slung a stone at Goliath's head. The stone struck true, and Goliath stumbled backwards, stunned. He fell to the ground with a thunderous crash, his once towering and imposing figure now reduced to a lifeless heap. There was a moment of stunned silence on the battlefield. The Philistines were in disbelief, and the Israelites erupted in a cheer that echoed across the valley. The sound of clashing swords and battle cries had come to an abrupt halt, replaced by the cheers and shouts of victory. David, meanwhile, wasted no time in running towards the fallen giant. He picked up Goliath's sword, which was nearly as tall as he was, and with a swift motion, decapitated the fallen warrior. The Philistines, seeing their champion defeated and beheaded, fled in terror, pursued by the Israelites, who were now filled with a renewed sense of courage and strength. The battlefield was transformed from a place of fear and uncertainty to a place of triumph and jubilation. The air was filled with the sounds of celebration and the smell of victory. The Israelites had prevailed over their oppressors, and David had proven himself to be a true warrior and leader. From a military philosophy perspective, David's strategy was unconventional but highly effective. He knew that he couldn't match Goliath's strength and size, so he had to find a way to use his own strengths to gain the advantage. He carefully selected 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream, knowing that they would be more accurate and effective than rougher stones. David's victory over Goliath is a story of the triumph of strategy and skill over brute strength. David, a small shepherd boy armed with only a sling, was able to defeat Goliath, a giant warrior over 9 feet tall. David's knowledge of his craft of sling throwing was a key factor in his success. He knew how to use the terrain to his advantage, positioning himself in a place where he could target Goliath's forehead, which was the only exposed part of his body. David's use of a sling was not simply a matter of brute force. With expertise and dexterity, he knew how to use the weapon to create a deadly velocity, and he had the skill to aim it accurately. David's knowledge of his craft, combined with his faith in God, enabled him to overcome the odds and emerge victorious. The story of David and Goliath teaches us that no matter how powerful our enemies may seem, we can prevail with the right combination of strategy, skill, and faith. It is a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected and unconventional approach can lead to the greatest success, and that even the smallest among us can achieve greatness. The battle between David and Goliath can be seen as a metaphor for the struggle between good and evil. David, with his faith in God and his commitment to righteousness, represents the forces of light and truth. Goliath, with his arrogance and disregard for human life, represents the forces of darkness and corruption. The victory of David over Goliath is a symbol of the triumph of good over evil, and a reminder that even the smallest and weakest among us can achieve greatness with faith, courage, and a willingness to fight for what is right.